All right. Malcolm X legacy around the world. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. All right, here it is. Our brother from Kenya, he said, he asked us in Swahili, he said, Podcast ya Ujumbe ni thabiti na tunashuhudia habari muhimu sasa niliomba link zamas omo ni nje Malcolm X na kazi zake nyangi zadi zina wiza kuja Afrika ile tupate taarifa zadi masa ada wowote uta tham inawa sana. In other words, he said this: the Message Podcast is strong and we are witnessing meaningful information. Now I ask for links to study to know Malcolm X, and more of his works can come to Africa so we can get more information. Any help would be greatly appreciated. Shout out to Kabi Samaj Oja 6802. Shout out to the fam. I'm really excited about this. We're going to get into our own brother, our beloved brother, Minister Malcolm X. Um, yeah, let's talk about it. All right, so we're going to talk about Malcolm X's legacy around the world. Number one, we're going to talk about Malcolm X's revolutionary ideology. Then we're going to get into Malcolm X's influence on global movements and Malcolm X's enduring legacy in the 21st century. And we'll answer a few questions. So, Minister Malcolm X remains one of the most influential figures in the global struggle for racial justice and human rights, right? Of course, we know most of us know his story. He was born in Malcolm Little, 1925. He evolved into a powerful leader through his affiliation with the Nation of Islam, or the NOI, and later his independent activism. His speeches, writings, and ideological evolution shaped movements not only in the United States but around the world. So this is what we're gonna get into it. I'm glad the fam asked the question, and during this Black History Month, I had some other ideas, but what a great way to start Black History Month by talking about the Minister Malcolm X. Let's go. Now, Malcolm X and his revolutionary ideology. His revolutionary ideology. Um, Malcolm X's early political beliefs were heavily influenced by the teachings of the Nation of Islam and its leader Elijah Muhammad. We have to understand, love it or lump it, the Nation of Islam during this time was very influential as to how our brothers and sisters looked and how they felt about themselves. All right. And not only that, the Nation of Islam espoused doctrine of black self-sufficiency. You can hear that a lot. Do for self, separation from white society, and a rejection of racial integration, which Malcolm X initially advocated. Okay, so he pushed for that through powerful speeches and uncompromising rhetoric. He addressed brutal realities of racism, segregation, and oppression in America. Unlike the other civil rights leaders, such as like Dr. Martin Luther King, who promoted nonviolence, Malcolm X emphasized self-defense, not being the aggressor, but as a human being, we should defend ourselves, right? Famously stating, by any means necessary. Okay. Um, he was that guy. Malcolm X was that person, and um, he's an amazing person. And so he did have some ideology that were totally different from the norm. Okay, but I really believe this was a snowball effect. It was bound to happen, but it just so happened it happened in the 50s and 60s. Okay, we had so many other leaders before this, but it was like lightning in a bottle, and here comes Minister Malcolm, right? And so his messages of black nationalism, self-reliance resonated beyond the United States. Um, Many oppressed groups worldwide, particularly in Africa, the Caribbean, and even parts of Europe, found inspiration in his call for dignity and resistance against this systemic racism. Dignity. I heard somebody talk about being dignified and putting uh, going out with your best foot forward, with your head up. You know, yeah, we know the clothes don't make the man, but there are some things that we got to do to assert our authority. So, because believe it or not, I tell the young people all the time, they judge you based on what you have on. Before you even open your mouth, they sizing you up, right? So what's a better way to do it than to come in dressed the part, dress ready, dress focused, dress like you're about to take care of business. And that's what they taught the people to do. And I think that we need to kind of get back to that. Uh, get back to wearing coat and tie. As a teacher, yeah, there's been times I got away from it, but most of the time I'm wearing a bow tie. I'm wearing something dressed up. All right. To let you know that I'm here to teach. I'm here for the business of education, and this is a dignified occasion. Okay, so we should have dignity. Okay, nowadays we have gotten to the point to where dignity and even having the what is the word, self-worth or loving yourself is gone. And you can tell. All right. Oh, don't forget to subscribe. All right, but we're gonna get into this conversation though. But yeah, his critiques Western imperialism aligned with the growing anti-colonial sentiments of the 1950s and 60s. During the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of African nations that was gaining their independence from world powers. Okay. So he aligned himself with that. Okay. And so lost my train of thought. But yeah, so the thing is these countries, these nations were gaining their independence and they were using a pan-African viewpoint. Okay. It wasn't Nigeria versus everybody. It was Ubuntu. It was us all. It was all of us or none of us. Okay. And also people like Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. Okay. Leaders in African nations fighting for independence. Kwame Nkrumah and Patrice Lumumba of the Bakongo saw Malcolm X as a symbolic figure of Black liberation. Shout out to the fam in Ghana. They're doing a great thing, dealing with the dual citizenship and accepting Black people. I know there's some other nations that are doing it. Let me know what other nations in Africa that are allowing dual citizenship. All right, let's go. So there was a sincere question. All right, the sincere question was this: how did Sister Betty feel about him being gone so much? This is from Queen Cam. Okay, she asked an honest question. Now I had to think about it. How did our Queen Mother feel about Minister Malcolm always on the road? What do you think? Okay, because they were married and they had children, and so didn't being married you like for your spouse to be around. But this was at the height of the civil rights movement. Okay, and I'm sure she was. Some sources say she was. Of course, she expressed it herself. She was likely concerned and worried about his safety when he was frequently gone and on the road due to activism, due to hostile people, both black and white. Let's be honest. Everybody didn't receive his message and didn't receive him, right? And so, given the growing threats surrounding against him from the nation and other groups, which often put him in dangerous situations, she was aware of the potential for violence and the risk he faced. So she wasn't oblivious to it. Okay, so she was nervous for his safety. Okay, and also family life. Okay. With young children at home, I'm sure she likely felt the strain of managing the family. We've seen some of the movies back in the day. Of course, the movie by Spike Lee was really good. And how Angela Bassett she portrays Sister Betty, Mother Betty, um, in that role with that friction during that time, during towards the last few years of his life. Okay, and but just like Mother Coretta, Sister Betty supported his mission. Okay, she knew that there was something bigger than them that was happening. Okay, so despite her concerns, Betty was a strong supporter of Malcolm X's work and understood the importance of the message. So, what do you think? I got a question. I got a question for anybody, ladies and gentlemen. How would you feel if your significant other or your spouse was put in that situation? Comment below. Let me know. Okay, before you do it though, before you comment, subscribe. But let me know, how would you feel um, if your spouse, your significant other, the love of your life, is faced with this, having to deal with the struggles of the day, the issues of the day, whatever it is. Okay, what do you think? Tell me. Let's continue. So, Malcolm's ideological transformation began, I think, and many other people, when reading his work, reading his autobiography, I think his mind state changed after his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1964, where he experienced a more inclusive and diverse form of Islam. Okay. Um, he saw something different. He rejected racial separatism of the Nation of Islam and embraced Sunni. Okay. Of course, Yahya Shabaka, he can really go into detail about that as far as that goes. But um, he realized that the world is bigger than Harlem. The world is bigger than Detroit. And I challenge you guys to travel, to see other places, to see other parts of the world, and your whole worldview will change. Just by us going to the Dominican Republic last summer, I saw something different. All right. Do some traveling, okay? So he advocated for racial unity and a broader fight against oppression, right? Um, this shift broadened his appeal and allowed his message to transcend racial lines. His newfound perspective influenced movements beyond America, particularly in most post-colonial African nations among marginalized communities globally. And he also took a trip. He also I don't know for sure. I don't know which one it was, but I know he did link up with some brothers in Cuba. Okay, I just don't. The name escapes me, but y'all let me know. He did talk to some brothers in Cuba. Now, Malcolm X's growing Pan-African ideology became a defining aspect of his later years. Remember, Pan-African is not just say one group of black people in one part of the world, but it was focused on all the black people all over the world. Pan-Africanism. Okay, check it out. Now he recognized the oppression of black people in America was intrinsically linked to the struggles of African nations emerging from colonial rule, right? So he argued that black Americans needed to establish ties with African nations. Malcolm X did that. He, I need to say that again. He argued that black Americans needed to establish ties with African nations to build a global coalition against white supremacy and neocolonialism. So it wasn't one group of people trying to do it all. It was one group of people trying to connect with another and then another to make things happen, to make things work. That's what it's about. Okay, group effort, right? Group cooperation. So his speeches increasingly emphasize the need for black people worldwide to unite politically and economically, fostering self-determination outside of Western influence. Outside of Western influence. So he had to realize that this thing was once he got outside the United States, he realized that this thing was bigger. Just like when Martin Luther King towards the end of his life, I think shout out to Brother Mo, he asked about MLK, but when Martin Luther King towards the end of his life, where's the book? Here it is. Check this book out. I know this is not in my thing, but Malcolm, not at the bottom, but Malcolm, Martin and Malcolm and America, The Dream or Nightmare by James Cone. That is a good book. Check it out. Oh, I dropped it. All right. So, but slipped out my hand. But Martin Luther King, towards the end of his life, when he left Atlanta and moved up north to Chicago, he realized that racism hit different in the north than it was in the south. Okay. And so when you get outside of the world that you're in, you see things differently. Okay. So so he recognized that oppression was happening everywhere and anywhere. And so we have to get to the point of being okay with talking to our friends and family around the world. Okay. And so we have to do that like he did, transnational movement. With that transnational movement, Malcolm X laid a foundation for a broader Pan-African consciousness that continues to influence discussions in on Black identity and liberation today. So, before I get to that question, by the time of his assassination, unfortunately, in 1965, Malcolm X evolved into a global figure, advocating for human rights, dignity, and justice for oppressed people, and everywhere, not just one state, one area, but everywhere. So his ideological journey from Black nationalism to internationalism, he went from Black nationalism to internationalism. Okay. So he laid the groundwork for future global movements seeking liberation from systemic oppression and neocolonialism. So here's the other question. What would Minister Malcolm X say about today's political climate? Brother Mo, he pushed the button. He asked a question. He said, what would Minister Malcolm say about today's political climate? Simply check out his speeches. Any one of them. He would tell you how he felt and how he would feel about this climate. Check out the Ballot of the Bullet, the Message to the Grassroots. Any one of them will let you know how he, what he believed and how he felt when it comes down to any political situation. If it is not helping the community, if it's not helping the people, no matter who you are, he stood on business. He said, "You're not. If you're not helping us, why are you talking for?" Okay, and of course, Dr. Darden, my principal, he said, but are we listening? Shout out to Dr. Darden. He said, we heard all the speeches, we read all the books, but are we really paying attention? Are we listening to what he's saying? That's the question. All right. So, yeah, we know what he said, we know what he's done, but are we really paying attention? Or did we just take him for granted? All right. What do you think? Okay. I got a question. Okay. Y'all can comment. What would Malcolm X say? What do you think he would say about today's political climate? All right. Let's go. Next thing, Malcolm's influence on global movements. Okay, we talked about his ideology. Now we're going to talk about his influence on global movements. All right. Now, Malcolm X's impact extended beyond the civil rights struggle in the United States. Okay, so he his impact was seen through his speeches, his writings, and activism inspired revolutionary movements, political thought worldwide. So we're going to talk about how his legacy influenced the world outside, the places outside the U.S. Okay. All right. Malcolm X internationalism was evident in his outreach to African nations during his travels in 1964. Think about it, y'all. This was a very short period of time. This was this was not 20, 30 years of him traveling. This was like the last 2 years. Man, okay. I'm not an expert in Malcolm X, but I think it was like the last 2 years, maybe the last year of his life, where he did all of this traveling internationally. In 1964, he visited Ghana, Egypt, Kenya, Tanzania, Sudan. And I think this is a photo of him with a brother in Sudan, okay, Nigeria, and other newly independent African states, forging relationships with leaders and intellectuals who shared his vision of Pan African solidarity. Okay, he recognized the link between Black struggle in America and the fight against colonialism in Africa, advocating for a global approach to dismantling systemic oppression. Okay, this was the thing. Okay, and I think by him going out there, he had a different outlook on his personal life. Okay, what do y'all think? Okay, now He recognized the link between black struggle in America to fight against colonialism in Africa. So he advocated for a global approach to dismantling systemic oppression. So um, I think I said that already, but the thing is, he was trying to appeal to the UN. After a while, he realized, okay, the United States is not going to hear what I have to say, but let me appeal to the United Nations. Let me have this conversation with them. And so before I move on to that. But in Ghana, Malcolm X met with Kwame Nkrumah, the country's first president, and he was a staunch advocate of Pan Africanism. He engaged with African American conversations and other people, expatriates that live in Ghana, including Maya Angelou, W.B. Du Bois, his widow rather, Shirley Graham Du Bois, who were involved in the Pan African movement. His discussions reinforced the idea that the struggle for Black liberation was interconnected across the diaspora. Okay, and also his visit to Nigeria was something. Okay, he was warmly received by the university students and activists. That's the picture right here. He's in Nigeria. Okay, he's hanging out with the fam in Nigeria. Uh, University students and activists who saw him as a symbol of Black empowerment. Nigerian intellectuals engaged with him on the shared struggles of African nations and African Americans. So at this time, there was some kind of understanding and some kind of camaraderie, knowing that the struggle in Africa was very similar to that in America. Why can't we see that now? Why can't we understand that we are all in this together? Okay. Mm. So at this time, he was given the honorary title of Omowale, meaning the child has returned home, by students in the University of Ibadan. This reflected the profound impact his message had on African youth and their aspirations for self-determination. Okay, and so this Malcolm X became a global figure. He wasn't just a civil rights leader; he became a global figure. All right. And then he later on, he Malcolm X's influence was particularly strong among African liberation movements, including the African National Congress, ANC, in South Africa. The ANC struggle against apartheid mirrored the racial injustices Malcolm X fought against in America. Um, his speeches encouraged activists in South Africa to resist oppression through self-determination and grassroots mobilization. So he was a global influence. Malcolm X was a global influence. So my question, I asked before I really quick. I asked a question last week. What would you be before I move on to the next thing? Before I move on to part three, the third section. What will you be reading next spring? I asked that question, and a lot of people, be it I'm sorry, fiction or nonfiction. Um, a lot of people, a lot of people picked nonfiction. Okay, there's a couple of people that pick fiction, but a lot of you guys are serious. Plays no games. I won't get into the nonfiction, but some of the fam did pick fiction. I don't care what you read. Read something. Okay. Um, tell me below. Comment. Tell us why. For those who why tell us why and what nonfiction book you'll be reading. But if you did pick fiction, let us know what kind of fiction. But I like historical fiction. I do. Um, now I like Afrofuturism. Shout out to the fam that's into it. But let me know. Let me know what book, what kind of book, what genre you'll be reading next spring. Okay. We had a discussion about spring readings. So let's have a conversation. Right now, the last part. Malcolm X enduring legacy in the 21st century. Okay. Now, last week I did ask a question: why studying African American history in the 21st century is important. So now we're going to get into his legacy in this century. Okay. Even decades after his assassination, Malcolm X's legacy continues to inspire movements for racial injustice, equality, self-determination worldwide. So his emphasis on self-defense, self-sufficiency, and global solidarity influenced movements such as Black Lives Matter. Love it or lump it, a lot of these movements in the 80s, 90s, and beyond that was influenced by our Minister Malcolm X. He drew directly from his critiques of systemic racism and police brutality. His insistence on international cooperation remains relevant in contemporary struggles against neocolonialism and economic exploitation. It is not just a physical exploitation we're dealing with. We're dealing with financial struggles right now. We're dealing with um, we're still dealing with why gas prices are higher in the hood than they are in the suburbs. That's economic exploitation. Okay, why food is more expensive in the hood than it is in the suburbs? Okay, you can't tell me it's because of resources or whatever. You can't tell me that because Walmart is the same Walmart. All right, let's go. So beyond activism, I'm sorry, beyond activism, Malcolm X impact is deeply felt around the world, even now, right? So, and his influence can also be seen in education, with numerous universities incorporating his works into curricula focused on African American studies. Okay, it is not critical race theory. It actually is actual factual. It is Black history. I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna put it out there right now. Black history is American history. Okay, there it is. I said it. Okay, dislike it or whatever. Let me know. But Black history is American history. All right. So his influence on education, numerous universities, his speeches continue to be studied for their rhetorical power and intellectual depth, ensuring that his message of resistance and empowerment endures. There's another realm of influence that Malcolm X really impacted, and it touches people in my generation, hip hop. Yep, yep. Malcolm X, his influence was was really laced in hip hop. We're not talking about rap music. We're not talking about gangster rap. We're talking about hip hop. Hip, the knowledge, hop is the movement, right? KRS-One. All right. All right. So Malcolm X influence on hip hop. Yep. Public Enemy, major influence. Okay. Fight the power. Don't believe the hype. The whole 9 yards. Okay. We got Public Enemy, X Clan. Okay, to the East Blackwood. Shout out to big brother Joseph Ferguson. He 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 would say that all the time. Okay, X Clan. Okay, okay, Professor X. Okay, years of the nine on the black hand side. All right, Professor X, Queen Latifah, Queen Latifah. All right, in the early days, it was Malcolm X had a heavy influence in some of her rhymes and some of her work. Nas. Okay, yeah, you know it. Okay. Now, if I'm missing somebody, let me know. If I'm missing somebody, y'all put in the comments which rapper or which rap group was influenced by Malcolm X. All right, let's go. Kendrick Lamar. All right. Yeah. K. Dot. He was his work. His some of his rhymes are influenced by Malcolm X, and of course, the greatest there is, Tupac. All right. Tupac, his rhymes was heavily influenced by Minister Malcolm X. You guys let me know what other groups did I miss? Because I know there's a lot of which ones did I miss that were influenced by Malcolm X or those kind of organizations. So his philosophy and empowerment and resistance against oppression resonates in the messages of many conscious rap artists, reinforcing his enduring relevance. Hip hop as a global phenomenon has carried Malcolm X's legacy to new generations. Okay. So just let me know what other hip hop groups were influenced by Malcolm X. Okay. Let me know in the comment. Okay. And also don't forget, tell me how you feel. How would you feel if your significant other was always for the struggle? Okay. All right. Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe. Now, his impact on me. Malcolm X, it was a great. He was a even though he was gone before I was born, he impacted my life to stand firm and to love myself, to love my history as a black man in America, and also to be real about it, to realize where we are in the United States, so that it did influence my study habits. He said history has is I think is the reward of its own research. So history, in other words, history has its own reward. So uh, I love to read. He loved to read, and so his work and the way the message to the grassroots was a major. The Ballot of the Bullet was a major speech. It really changed how I saw things and how I saw people and how I saw politics. Okay, so and of course, being in going through the 80s and 90s, those rap groups was big, and I heard that a lot. Keep your head to the sky and things like that. So, um, 911 is a joke. So, um, just think about those things. It really affected how I saw the world and saw history. So, Malcolm X's global impact is undeniable. Okay. His impact is undeniable. His transformation from fiery black nationalist to international human rights advocate created a lasting legacy around the world. And so, get back to the question now, brother Kabi Samaj, Orja, 6802. He said, now I ask for links to study to know Malcolm X and more of his works can come to Africa so we can get more information. Any help would be greatly appreciated. Now, one of the fam answered the question. As far as that question, okay, one of the fam, H Rap Brown's Ghost, shout out to him, H Rap. He responded in the comments. He said, as far as the question about Malcolm X's books, he doesn't really have any books per se. Everything is contextual speeches and a handful of essays, then published by different people, not him. Because once he was gone, a lot of his speeches, words were circulated. And this is as far as I know. If he says if there's a book written by him, he said I don't know about it or may have forgotten. And now it's gonna get real. H Rap said this. He said, I'm team oatmeal, by the way. Sugar, butter, blueberry preserves. He said, but he said this though. He said, but if I find out somebody's been putting sugar in their grits, okay, it's gonna be a problem. That's what he said. So the fight continues, but he pushed it further. I got a question. So that being said, I got I gotta go. I gotta do it. Got a question. Salt on grits or sugar on grits? Do you want it salty or savory? What? Yeah. So let me know in the comment. That's a very important question. Do you put salt on grits or sugar on grits? H Rap wants to know. Okay. Now I'm tell you, Queen Cam says she don't care. She gonna put sugar on her grits. So and so so let me know. Salt on grits or sugar. All right. Let's get it. Now, before we go, there's some books. Of course, the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley. By any means necessary. These are some of his speeches. Of course, I gotta see that. Malcolm X on Afro-American history. These again are some of his speeches, some of his works, and Dead Are Rising, Life of Malcolm X by Les Payne. Okay, these are some really good ones. All right, so we did talk about Malcolm X and his revolutionary ideology, Malcolm X's influence on global movement, his enduring legacy in the 21st century, and in hip hop, and we answered some questions. All right. So we talked about Malcolm X's legacy around the world. You just got to talk to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast, and I will talk to you later. Peace.